Throughout history, humanity has carried a dark secret. For 200,000 years, the culture of cannibalism has existed across the globe, a primal shadow that modern civilization has tried to bury. In Japan, it was only officially forbidden during the Meiji era. Yet, whispers remain of remote villages where these ancient, superstitious rites might still be practiced out of dark, individual desires. It makes you wonder exactly where. In a secluded corner of the countryside, a new face arrives. Agawa Daigo, a spirited police officer, is taking a break at a local lookout. The locals already have a name for him, Yosamon, the outsider. But for now, he just wants to enjoy his meal in peace. Daigo isn't just a visitor. He is Kyuj Village's new resident policeman. Despite being an outsider, he greets the locals with a friendly smile, promising to be the guardian of this seemingly wonderful and peaceful community. As he cycles through the village, the Welcome to Kyuj Village sign stands tall. The climb is steep, and the locals can't help but tease the city boy on his bike. It's hard work, but Daigo is determined to make this place his home. Out of breath but still smiling, he stops to chat with an elderly resident. To him, Kyuj Village is a beautiful, tranquil place. He's ready to put everything into his work and get along with the good people here. The seasons are changing, and the first chill of winter arrives at the small village police station. Inside, Daigo warms himself with a hot drink, oblivious to the fact that his quiet life is about to take a sharp turn. His wife, Yuki Agawa, and their young daughter, Mishiro, have just arrived. Yuki, a gentle woman with long black hair, looks a bit weary from the move. She's here to support her husband, but the transition to this remote life isn't going to be as easy as Daigo hopes. Beside her, little Mishiro watches quietly. A week after moving in, their new home is still a total mess. Yuki is frustrated, seeing Daigo seemingly relaxing while she handles the move. He tries to lighten the mood with a joke, but the stress of their fresh start is palpable. Yuki sighs, looking out over the sleepy town. It feels like a place where nothing ever happens. Daigo insists he's still technically on duty, even in a town this quiet. He wants to believe in the peace of Kyuj Village. He hugs Mishiro, telling Yuki that even minor things happen here. Missing kids found in closets, old men brawling. But deep down, he thinks it's a good thing that nothing truly major occurs. He values the safety of his family above all else. As he looks out the window, Yuki mentions the officer who was stationed here before him. She warns him not to end up like him. Daigo's expression shifts slightly. There's more to that story than a simple transfer. Rumor has it the last guy racked up gambling debts and just vanished. But before he went missing, he was causing trouble, saying strange, unsettling things about the village. Daigo listens, the first seeds of doubt being planted. He was saying that the people of this village. Daigo starts, but he's interrupted by the shrill ring of the telephone. The reality of his job is calling, and the peace of the station is shattered in an instant. Daigo answers, expecting another trivial dispute, but his face hardens as he listens. Something big has happened. Yuki and Mishiro watch him, sensing the shift in the air. Duty calls, and he has to go. The snow begins to fall gently over the station as the news spreads. Someone has found a body. The tranquil facade of the village is beginning to crumble. Deep in the woods, Daigo follows a local guide through the thickening snow. They're racing against time, his breath hitching in the cold air. The forest feels oppressive, hiding what lies ahead. The guide, Keisuke Goto, a rugged man with a rifle, mocks Daigo's city slicker stamina. He's impatient and aggressive, clearly holding little respect for the lawman. They're almost there, and Keisuke warns him, it's bad. Keisuke's words are sharp. He looks down on the outside scum who can't handle the harsh reality of the mountains. He tells Daigo to keep it together, or he might just lose his lunch. The tension between the outsider and the local is at its peak. Then they find it. A horrific sight hidden among the trees. The mauled body of an elderly woman, Granny Goto. Keisuke and the other villagers immediately claim it was a bear. They stand around, their faces grim and unreadable. The villagers explain that Granny Goto went out to pick herbs and never returned. Now, seeing her like this, Keisuke puts on a display of grief and anger. He claims he feels sorry for her, but his eyes remain cold. Keisuke vows that the hunting association will make the killer pay. Daigo stands by, observing the scene with a professional eye. Something about the way they're so quick to blame a bear doesn't sit right with him. Daigo kneels by the body, ignoring the hostile glares of the Goto family. He focuses on the wounds, his police training kicking in. He notices something specific, something chillingly wrong about the injuries on the arm. Daigo leans in close, pointing out the specific, jagged wounds on the cold corpse. These bite marks, they aren't from a bear, he says, his voice cutting through the silence of the woods. He looks Keisuke dead in the eye before dropping a bombshell. They're from a human. Keisuke scoffs, trying to dismiss it as the old woman going senile and biting herself in a panic. But Daigo won't back down, physically demonstrating how impossible it would be to reach that part of the arm. It's a direct challenge to the village's narrative, and the air between them suddenly turns frigid. Keisuke's eyes narrow, his suspicion cutting through the cold air. He asks Daigo if he's trying to imply something about those bite marks. Daigo, sensing the shift in the air, tries to play it cool, saying it's just worrying, that's all. But the damage is done. The tension explodes in an instant. The Goto family surrounds Daigo, their faces twisted in anger. Keisuke accuses him of implying they abused their own grandmother. The younger family members join in the jeering, their voices sharp and defensive. They'd never hurt Granny, they claim, and Daigo is the only thing he can get out. In a terrifying blur of movement, Keisuke jams the barrel of his shotgun directly into Daigo's forehead. The friendly atmosphere is gone, replaced by a cold, metallic threat. Daigo freezes, his breath catching as he stares into the dark eye of the weapon. "Why wait a minute, guys?" he stammers, but Keisuke isn't listening. The woods transform into a grim stage for a mock execution. Keisuke holds the gun steady while the younger Gotos egg him on with chilling enthusiasm. "Shoot him, Keisuke!" they cheer, laughing at the outsider who dare to mock them. Daigo, pinned by the gun and the hateful gaze of the villagers, can only watch in shock. Staring down the barrel, Daigo's world shrinks to that cold circle of steel. He asks if they've lost their minds, but Keisuke's gaze is unyielding. "Yoso, I know you think we're stupid around here," he growls, "and I'm not talking it anymore." The mask of the friendly villager has completely fallen away. Keisuke takes careful aim, his finger hovering near the trigger. He doesn't care what Daigo meant to say. The moment he thinks he's being mocked, he threatens to beat the officer's head in. He barks an order for Daigo to keep his hands off his tool belt, a clear warning that any resistance will be met with violence. "So what? You trying to die now?" he asks with terrifying calm. The pressure is too much. Daigo, sweating and trembling, lets out a ragged breath and yields. "You're right. I'm sorry," he chokes out, pleading for forgiveness. In the background, the younger villagers watch with twisted smiles, enjoying the sight of the lawman broken and submissive. For a moment, the silence is heavy with the threat of death. Then, in an almost psychotic shift, Keisuke beams a wide, toothy grin. He offers a hand to help Daigo up, his voice suddenly jovial. "Guess it's all right then. We're friends now," he says, as if he hadn't just been a second away from pulling the trigger. Daigo can only manage a bewildered "huh" as he stares at the offered hand. The woods erupt with raucous laughter from the Goto clan. "It was a joke, man," they shout, finding the whole situation hilarious. They tell Daigo it was just a little hazing for the newbie. But as the laughter rings through the trees, Daigo remains on the ground, his face pale and eyes wide, the joke feeling more like a prophecy. Daigo can't wrap his head around it. What do they possibly find so funny? He watches them, his jaw tight. Recovering some of his composure, he warns Keisuke that what they just did was criminal intimidation. He won't let it slide if they try it again, but Keisuke just watches him with that same unsettling smirk. Keisuke tells Daigo he likes him because he's not like the guy from before. He ignores the warning about intimidation and casually mentions that other cops will be arriving soon to inspect the scene. Then, with a chilling familiarity, he invites Daigo and his family to a welcoming party at Haken's later that evening. As he walks away, Keisuke tosses back one last warning. The last officer didn't get along with them, and he went nuts in the end. He makes it clear that if Daigo wants to keep living here, he needs to be there at the party. It's not an invitation, it's a command, and Daigo's skepticism is visible on his face. Daigo calls out, asking about the guy before him. He'd heard that the previous officer had simply disappeared. Keisuke's back is turned, his posture indifferent to the question. The air between them is thick with secrets that the village is determined to keep buried. Did something happen with you guys as well? Daigo probes, his eyes sharp. Keisuke pauses, his expression unreadable for a moment before he replies with a hollow "not really, nothing at all." He emphasizes that he's only talking about building a good relationship for both their sakes, his eye fixed on Daigo with a predatory focus. Night falls on the snowy village, and back at the station house, the atmosphere is just as cold. Daigo tells Yuki he's going out to drink with the locals. Yuki is incredulous. After everything that's happened, he wants to join them. She flatly refuses to go with him, and Daigo can't really blame her. As Daigo puts on his shoes, Yuki's frustration boils over. The house is still a mess, and he's leaving again. Daigo insists that in a small place like this, it's vital to get along with the residents. But Yuki's smile is gone. She tells him this is exactly what she hates about the countryside. The fresh start they wanted is already falling apart. Suddenly, a harsh, unexpected shout of "shut up" rings out, though it's unclear if it's real or just a manifestation of the stress. Yuki and Daigo both freeze, their faces reflecting a mix of shock and exhaustion. They stare at each other, the silence that follows feeling even more heavy and oppressive than the argument. Daigo's face is a mask of grim determination. He reminds Yuki that they've already decided to live here, and there's no turning back now. As he steps out into the falling snow, Yuki watches him from the doorway, her anger replaced by a deep, unsettling fear. The house they hoped would be a sanctuary feels more like a prison. At Haken's pub, Daigo is the only one in uniform at a table full of go-tos. The room is filled with the smell of smoke and alcohol, and the atmosphere is thick with a forced, menacing cheer. Keisuke welcomes him, telling him not to just stand around and to take a seat. Every eye in the room is on the new cop. Daigo takes his seat, feeling the weight of their scrutiny. He tries to keep his guard up as they ask why his wife and kids aren't there. He mutters an excuse about something coming up, his discomfort playing on his face. In the background, the younger go-tos laugh, their joy feeling performative and hollow. Daigo weaves a lie, telling them he treated the move like a reunion and told his wife to take their daughter back to her hometown for a while. But before he can even finish, Keisuke's voice cuts through the room. "You're a liar," he says plainly. Daigo's heart skips a beat as he tries to maintain his facade. "A liar? What am I lying about?" Keisuke doesn't blink. He tells Daigo to stop those half-assed lies. He knows exactly where Daigo's family is. "Your wife and kid are at your house, right?" he asks with terrifying certainty. Daigo's eyes go wide with shock. He realized in that moment that he's not just a visitor. He's a captive under constant surveillance. How do they know? The thought screams in Agawa Daigo's mind as he stares at Keisuke Goto. The villager leans in, his whisper chillingly intimate. "We know everything about where you go and what you do in this village. That's how it is in Kyuj village." The realization that he is under constant surveillance settles in his gut like a cold weight, turning this welcome into a psychological cage. As the night at Haken's drags on, Daigo finds himself trapped beside Hiroyuki Goto, the man who nearly killed him hours before. He drinks in tense silence, the weight of the village's secrets pressing down with every forced swallow. "I'm really going to be living here?" he wonders, feeling the trap closing in, unaware that back at home, Yuki is already reaching her own breaking point in the suffocating silence of Kyuj village. The drinking party at Haken's continues. Keisuke Goto, with a predatory grin, urges Agawa Daigo to chug his drink. Daigo, sweating and uneasy, realizes that his first drink with the villagers is anything but a friendly welcome. It's a test of compliance. Meanwhile, back at their new home, Yuki Agawa is reaching her breaking point. Surrounded by moving boxes and the silence of a house that doesn't feel like home, she vents her frustration. "This is the worst," she mutters, her initial optimism completely shattered by the reality of their isolation. Yuki calls out for Mishiro Agawa, but there's no response. Her annoyance at her husband's absence is quickly being replaced by a nagging sense of unease. "That damn idiot," she huffs, looking for her daughter in the empty rooms. "Hey, Mishiro, where are you?" She slides the door open and looks out into the falling snow. Footprints lead away from the house, vanishing into the darkness. Yuki sits on the porch, her breath misting in the cold air. "I hate this so much," she whispers to herself. "I can't take it anymore." The quiet of the village is stifling. Yuki sits hunched over, the weight of their move pressing down on her. The house feels cold and unwelcoming, and every sigh seems to echo in the empty hallways. She's starting to realize that moving to Kyuj village was a terrible mistake. In the dim light of the hallway, Yuki's mind wanders to the previous policeman who lived here. He disappeared, didn't he? The thought sends a shiver down her spine. Why did they really move here? What was Agawa Daigo thinking? The house itself seems to hold a dark history. Yuki realizes that the last family lived exactly where she is sitting now. It's kind of scary, she thinks, her eyes wide as she stares into the shadows. The peaceful image of the countryside is being replaced by a growing sense of dread. While looking for Mishiro Agawa, Yuki notices something scratched into the wood of a pillar. She leans in, her heart hammering in her chest. Carved desperately into the surface are two words that chill her to the bone. "Run away." Back at the pub, the atmosphere is boisterous. Agawa Daigo is laughing with the younger go-tos, trying his best to integrate. "You're a pretty good guy for a city boy," one of them shouts. For a moment, it seems like the tension has finally dissolved into camaraderie and beer. Daigo lights a cigarette and opens up. He admits he was apprehensive about moving to the country, especially with the rumors about the officer who went missing. He'd heard about the fights and the dead, but he can't help but wonder if there's more to the story. The villagers are quick to dismiss the past. "He did all that to himself," they insist. Daigo tries to agree, wanting to believe they're all good people. But his expression remains guarded, his instincts as a cop telling him that something is deeply wrong beneath the surface. Keisuke Goda mentions that the last guy went around spreading insane rumors before he vanished. Rumors about the people of Kyuj village. Meanwhile, a vision of Mishiro Agawa appears, wandering alone in the snow, unaware of the eyes watching her from the trees. Mishiro Agawa follows a black and white cat through the quiet, snow-covered lane. But she isn't alone. From the darkness behind her, a terrifying, bearded figure emerges, pushing a wheelbarrow and looming over the small girl like a nightmare made flesh. The grotesque man looks down at Mishiro Agawa, his eyes wide and vacant. He is a relic of a primitive, forgotten time, and he represents the very secret the village is hiding. Mishiro looks back, frozen in a mix of innocence and fear. The imagery becomes fragmented and horrifying. A severed finger, the bearded man's hollow gaze, and the word that has been haunting Daigo's mind: cannibals. In his vision, Yuki Agawa screams for Mishiro as the nightmare takes hold. Daigo tries to laugh it off, calling it a joke, but his eyes say otherwise. Keisuke Goto's face is a mask of unyielding intensity. He stares at Agawa Daigo, his eyes searching for any sign of genuine belief in those rumors. The silence in the pub is deafening as the word cannibals hangs in the air. "Is it true?" Daigo asks, his voice barely a whisper. The go-tos burst into laughter again, a sharp, mocking sound. "As if we'd eat people," they howl. They tell him he's thinking too much, but Keisuke's final warning is sober. "If you drink too much, you might die tomorrow." Outside the pub, the cold air hits Daigo like a physical blow. The The go-tos are leaving, reminding him that tomorrow they are headed into the mountains. Did you forget? They ask. The drunken camaraderie is gone, replaced by the grim business of the village. Their mission is clear: murder it. We're going to kill the bear. Keisuke Goto's eyes are cold as ice. Daigo tries to play the authority figure, mentioning the main police station and the Hunters Association, trying to reassure himself that they won't die. Keisuke warns him not to underestimate the beast. It's hungry, just woken from hibernation, and it has already tasted human blood. If a bear's attacked a human before, it doesn't fear them anymore, he growls. To them, you're nothing but food. So you might die. Keisuke's words aren't a warning. They're a challenge. The villagers wave goodbye, their laughter echoing through the trees as they leave Daigo alone in the snow. Better be careful, officer, they call out, their voices full of mock concern. Keisuke Goto's eyes linger on Daigo for a final, unsettling second before he turns away. The village is closing ranks, and Agawa Daigo is beginning to understand the depth of the trap he's walked into. He watches them leave, his expression dark and pensive. Agawa Daigo stumbles home, the world spinning from the alcohol and the weight of the night's revelations. He crunches through the snow, finally reaching the porch. Whoa, I drank too much, he mutters as he slides the door open and steps into the dark house. Daigo stumbles into the dark house, his mind still hazy from the drinks with the Goto clan. He finds Yuki Agawa sitting motionless in the kitchen, her eyes staring into the void of the unlit room. What were you doing with the lights off? He asks, his slurred voice failing to mask the sudden chill creeping up his spine. Yuki doesn't answer, the silence between them heavy with a dread he can't yet name. Gently placing a hand on her shoulder, Daigo tries to bridge the gap, but Yuki remains frozen. Without a word, she points toward a wooden pillar near the doorway. As Daigo follows her trembling finger, his gaze lands on a desperate message carved deep into the grain. Run away. In that instant, the alcohol's warmth vanishes, replaced by a cold, sharp realization that the village's welcome was nothing more than a warning. Agawa Daigo stares at the runaway carving, the alcohol leaving his system in a sudden, cold rush. Yuki Agawa mentions the previous officer, and the realization that they aren't the first to live in this shadow hits him like a physical blow. What the hell? He mutters, his skin crawling. This isn't just a house, it's a warning. The silence between them is heavy, thick with the weight of the unspoken. Yuki Agawa is no longer just annoyed, she's genuinely afraid. She doesn't think they can just brush this off as a creepy prank. Daigo is speechless, the burden of his family's safety pressing down on him in the dim light of their new, unsettling home. Sudden, sharp panic. Mishiro Agawa is gone. Yuki was so focused on the carving that she lost sight of her daughter for just a moment. Daigo doesn't hesitate. He bolts out of the house into the freezing night, calling her name desperately as he scans the dark, snow-covered lane. Every second feels like an eternity. Relief, sharp and sudden, washes over him. Daigo found Mishiro safely tucked in her bed, fast asleep. He sighs, his heart still hammering against his ribs. Yuki joins them, her eyes filling with tears of relief as she thanks God that her daughter is safe for now. But the peace is fragile. Even in the relief, the tension remains. Yuki Agawa scolds Daigo for his drinking and for ignoring the phone when she needed him most. Daigo can only apologize, his face a mask of regret. But as he looks closer at his sleeping daughter, his eyes widen. Is that blood? The question hangs in the air, a new layer of horror. He wakes Mishiro, his voice gentle but taut with worry. She stirs and reaches out, her small hand offering him something she found. Daigo is caught completely off guard, a mixture of fear and confusion on his face as he stares at whatever his daughter is holding out to him. The night is far from over. The next morning, huge village gathers under a clear, cold winter sky. Truong Long, the village chief, delivers a grand, sweeping speech from his podium. He speaks of unity, gratitude, and Japan's blessings, but his words feel hollow and performative against the backdrop of the silent mountains and the dark secrets they hold. The assembled hunters are a rough crowd, many of them clearly still hung over and reeking of alcohol from the previous night's festivities. Keisuke Goto and the other villagers listen with expressions of boredom and indifference. They've heard the chief's long speeches before and just want to get the hunt started. The target is officially confirmed, a bear with a missing ear. The chief continues to drone on, praying for their safety and for the soul of Granny Goto. The villagers are already checking their packs and rifles, their eyes fixed on the forest. They aren't interested in prayers, they're interested in revenge. Before the chief can even finish his sentence, Keisuke and his group start heading out. The chief shouts after them, frustrated by their blatant lack of respect. They're going through the south side, already moving with a cold, predatory purpose that leaves the chief's ceremony in the dust. "Come back, you little," he shouts, but they don't look back. The chief is left fuming, muttering about his idiot son and the villagers' disregard for order. Agawa, Daigo, steps forward, his uniform standing out among the rough hunting gear. He tells the chief he's going to follow the Gotos, his sense of duty outweighing his exhaustion. The chief can only watch as the outsider follows his unruly people into the wild. The hunt truly begins. The hunters trudge through the deep snow, their breathing heavy and rhythmic in the mountain air. Every step is an effort, and the silence of the forest is only broken by the sound of their exertion. Daigo struggles to keep up, his breath misting in the freezing cold. They pant in unison. Keisuke Goto leads the group with ease, his eyes sharp and focused on the terrain. He doesn't look back as he insults the others for being slow and dragging their feet. Daigo, sweating despite the sub-zero temperatures, pushes himself to maintain the pace, his jaw tight with determination. TCH. Keisuke clicks his tongue in annoyance. Hiroyuki Goto is the weakest of the group, trailing behind and struggling to breathe. Keisuke shows his younger brother no mercy, calling him slow and stupid. When Daigo tries to help, Hiroyuki reacts with a sudden, violent burst of fear and aggression. "Don't touch me," he screams, his eyes wide and wild as he shoves the officer away. Hiroyuki is shaking, his terror seemingly going beyond the hunt itself. He mutters about the stranger trying to talk to him, his face a mask of panic. Daigo watches him, his concern growing as Keisuke simply ignores his brother's breakdown and moves on. "All right," Keisuke shouts, indifferent to Hiroyuki's desperate state. They take a brief break, the mountain silence only broken by the occasional hoi-hoi noise drifting up from the valley. Daigo apologizes for his lack of sleep, earning a skeptical look from the others. He asks about the strange noise, and Keisuke explains that it's the beaters, villagers down below, making noise to drive the prey toward them. Keisuke Goto's tone is clinical as he describes the hunt. "They make noise from below in the valley to chase the bear up here," he says. "That's where we, the hunters, come in. It's a calculated, heartless way to corner a beast, and Daigo can't help but feel that he's being cornered just as much as the bear." Keisuke's words take an exclusionary turn. He tells Daigo that outsiders shouldn't interfere with village business. The hoi-hoi noises are like the whistles or alarms of police officers. They are village tools for village problems. Whatever happens here is handled by the villagers, and Daigo's badge means nothing in these woods. "Outsiders like you shouldn't do anything," he warns. Keisuke's gaze is a warning, as cold as the mountain wind. He checks his shotgun, emphasizing that anything in their territory belongs to them. He doesn't want Daigo's help or his presence. "Don't you dare try to help," he growls. "Anything in our territory is our prey." The line is drawn in the snow. Naturally, that includes you and other police officers. The threat is overt and bone-chilling. Keisuke's smirk is predatory. Daigo stares back, his face unreadable as the sweat of exertion and fear beads on his forehead. He realized in that moment that he isn't just a hunter. In the eyes of the Gotos, he might also be prey. He can only think in silence. A phone rings, shattering the silence and the tension. It's Daigo's phone. Keisuke's face twists in annoyance. They're supposed to be hunting, and the noise could ruin everything. "Hang up, you idiot," he barks at Daigo. Daigo fumbles with the device, his face flushed with embarrassment as he tries to answer. "Roger, Roger, Roger," he mutters. Daigo quickly tells the caller, "Nakamura-san," that he'll have to call back later. He's alert now, his senses sharp despite the exhaustion. In the background, he hears a sharp crackle nearby. Something is moving in the dense brush. The mountain is no longer silent, and the hunters are no longer alone. "I will call you later," he whispers. The radio crackles to life, breaking the tension. Another group has found bear tracks. They're enormous, 25 centimeters wide, and they're heading straight for Keisuke's position. "The bear is close, but we haven't found him yet," the voice on the radio warns. Keisuke's eyes light up with a manic excitement. The hunt is truly on. "They're huge," he mutters. A twisted grin spreads across Keisuke's face as the radio confirms the target's location. "No one found it yet? I'm going to be the first," he bellows, his excitement overshadowing everything else. Beside him, Hiroyuki Goto looks like he's about to collapse from the sheer terror of what's coming. But Keisuke is already shifting from thrill-seeker to tactician. The discovery of human hair in the massive tracks confirms their worst fears. The beast has a taste for people. Keisuke's voice crackles over the radio, dark and satisfied as he calls for blood. "It's the bastard that killed Goto-san's grandma. Let's take our revenge." The hunt has officially turned into a mission of vengeance, and Keisuke wastes no time, immediately preparing to split the group and surround the killer. Keisuke Goto takes charge of the hunt, his orders cutting through the mountain air. He directs Ueo to wait at the ridge, telling Hiroyuki and Agawa Daigo to follow him. Daigo is left standing in the snow, realizing the group is splitting up and he's losing his connection to the leader. "Why? What do we do then?" he calls out, but Keisuke is already moving. Keisuke vanishes into the trees with a predatory speed, leaving Daigo and Hiroyuki Goto with Ueo Goto. The giant of a man doesn't wait. He simply says, "Let's go," and plunges into the thick brush. Daigo struggles to adjust his gear, his face already slick with the sweat of exertion as he tries to keep the massive villager in sight. "Why, yes," he stammers, the chase beginning in earnest. The climb is brutal. Daigo looks up at Ueo, who moves through the rough terrain like a force of nature. "How the hell am I supposed to keep up with that giant?" he thinks, his lungs burning. Ueo is almost 2 meters of pure mountain muscle, and Daigo realizes with a sinking feeling that he's already being left behind. This is bad. At this rate, I'll never catch up. Disaster strikes in a heartbeat. In his desperate rush to close the gap, Daigo's foot slips on a patch of loose shale. He loses his balance and tumbles down a steep slope, his world a blur of branches and dirt. "What the hell?" he cries out as he crashes through the undergrowth, the mountain claiming its first victory over the outsider. Daigo lies in the dirt, the wind knocked out of him and a sharp pain radiating from his side. He looks up at the towering trees and realizes the nightmare has come true. He's lost, alone, in the middle of nowhere. "Shit," he groans, the silence of the woods feeling more like a threat than a comfort. "This is bad. I'm lost." The dense forest of Kyuj village feels like a living, breathing trap. Daigo stares into the dark canopy, his breath misting in the freezing air. "Seriously," he mutters, the initial beauty of the village replaced by a cold, unforgiving reality. He's a city cop out of his element, and the mountains don't care about his badge. Desperate for a lifeline, Daigo reaches for his radio, only to find the receiver is shattered from the fall. "God damn it, this receiver is broken too," he curses, his panic rising. He stands in the center of the silent woods, a lone figure in a vast, hostile wilderness. He's completely lost, and the only sound is his own frantic breathing. He pulls out his phone, his last hope for connection. He sees the missed call from Nakamura-san, the anatomist. In this moment of absolute isolation, the phone feels like a bridge back to sanity. "My phone. Who should I call?" he wonders, his thumb hovering over the screen as he tries to steady his shaking hands. "It's all right," Nakamura-san answers, his voice grave and professional. He's been examining Granny Goto's corpse, and the investigation has taken a dark, unexpected turn. "Akawa-san, I received the package this morning. I was able to learn something," the doctor says, his tone chillingly serious. Daigo listens, his heart racing. As Nakamura-san speaks, Daigo's mind flashes back to a strange, almost forgotten moment with Mashiro. The anatomist's words are a heavy weight. "I'm not sure if I'm happy to hear that," Daigo mutters, his expression hardening as the pieces of the puzzle begin to click into a terrifying new shape. Somehow, he thinks, the mystery deepening. Daigo's eyes widen in absolute shock as Nakamura-san describes his findings. He can almost see it, the horrific clinical detail of a severed finger. The investigation has moved far beyond a bear attack, and the truth is more gruesome than he ever imagined. The coldness of the woods is nothing compared to the chill in his blood. Nakamura-san delivers the final, crushing blow. "I did some investigating on the corpse of Granny Goto. This finger does not belong to her." The words are clear and unmistakable, shattering the village's official story. It wasn't just a wild animal in those woods. "Does not belong to her," the doctor repeats. "It belongs to someone else." The revelation hangs in the freezing air, the silence of the woods amplifying the horror. Daigo stands frozen, a lone figure in the vast wilderness, finally understanding the true nature of the threat he's facing. The village secrets aren't just buried, they're walking among them. To someone else, he repeats to himself in disbelief. He hangs up the phone, his face cast in shadow as he stares into the dense brush. The weight of the truth is almost too much to bear. "If you have anything else you need from me, just let me know," Nakamura-san's voice echoes in his mind. But Daigo knows that more information might be the last thing he needs right now. He looks truly horrified. A sudden, sharp sound breaks his focus. A gunshot. Daigo ducks, his instincts taking over as he dives for cover behind a thick trunk. The mountain's silence is gone, replaced by the ringing echo of a weapon and the terrifying realization that he might be the prey. He scrambles through the dirt, his eyes wide and searching. Daigo peers out from behind the tree, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Every shadow seems to move, every rustle of the wind sounds like a footstep. He's alone, lost, and now someone is shooting. He tries to steady his breathing, his eyes darting through the brush, searching for the source of the danger. He thinks, the panic nearly overwhelming him. The shooter reveals himself, and it's the last person Daigo expected. Hiroyuki Goto is standing in the brush, pointing a shotgun directly at the officer. He's crying, his face a mask of hysterical terror. "Don't shoot. Calm down," Daigo screams, his hands raised in a desperate plea for his life. He can't believe Keisuke's own brother is the one threatening him. Hiroyuki is beyond reason, his voice a ragged sob of despair. "Just put your gun down," Daigo begs, his voice cracking with the strain. He doesn't understand what's happening, why the young man is so distraught. He tries to keep his voice calm, but his own terror is visible in his wide eyes. "Anyway, put your gun down," he shouts again. Daigo is forced to draw his own revolver, his hands shaking as he levels it at the young villager. "Don't make me shoot," he warns, the standoff between the lawman and the terrified boy reaching a breaking point. The woods are silent now, save for Hiroyuki's sobbing and the hammering of Daigo's own heart. This is the nightmare he never expected. Hiroyuki's sobbing is the only sound in the freezing air, a series of ragged sniffles and hicks. Daigo is bewildered by the young man's reaction. "Wait," he mutters, his confusion overriding his fear for a moment. He sees the raw, unadulterated terror on Hiroyuki's face and realizes that the boy isn't a killer. He's a victim of his own fear. "Wait," he whispers. Hiroyuki breaks down completely, tears and snot streaming down his face in a display of pure, pathetic desperation. "Please don't leave me alone," he wails, his voice a broken plea. It's the cry of a child lost in the dark, and it cuts through Daigo's anger like a knife. The dangerous villager is nothing more than a terrified, lonely soul. Daigo stands in silence, the weight of Hiroyuki's wailing pressing down on him. He looks away for a moment, seeing a bird soar over the jagged, snow-capped peaks of the mountains, a stark reminder of the cold, indifferent world around them. What? He thinks, the absurdity of the situation finally sinking in. The high-stakes hunt has turned into a scene of domestic tragedy. The truth finally comes out. Hiroyuki shot at Daigo not out of malice, but out of a desperate fear of being left behind. So, you got lost and wandered around alone and saw me, Daigo says, trying to wrap his head around it. You didn't want to be left behind, but you found me and shot at me. You weren't aiming for me, he asks, his frustration beginning to show. Daigo's relief quickly curdles into a sharp, exasperated lecture. Seriously, what is wrong with your morals? He huffs, looking at the sobbing wreck before him. When Hiroyuki Goto blubbers about just being scared, Daigo can't believe his ears. I was scared. If that shot had been a few inches closer, I'd be dead. Do you have any idea how dangerous you are? In this moment, he sees only a pathetic, clumsy boy, completely unaware of the terrifying talent hidden behind those tears. But then the atmosphere shifts. Hiroyuki's sobbing stops abruptly, and his dazed eyes sharpen with a predatory focus as he stares into the distance. He ignores Daigo shouting, his posture straightening as he mutters a single word. Head. Daigo, still convinced the boy is concussed or losing his mind, reaches out to stop him. Oi, is something wrong with your head? Did you hit it when you tripped? He has no idea that Hiroyuki isn't looking for help. He's locking onto a target. In a sudden, explosive display of skill, Hiroyuki Goto fires. A bird in midair is blown apart, feathers and blood raining down as Agawa Daigo watches in stunned silence. The crying, helpless boy from a moment ago is nowhere to be seen. Hiroyuki boasts about his marksmanship, claiming he never misses within his range. Daigo is reeling. Didn't this kid just say he wasn't good at anything? To hit the head of a tiny bird without a scope, instantly. Even the elite SAT shooters would struggle with a feat like that. The realization hits Daigo. He's been played. The shitty kid act was a facade. As Hiroyuki looks back at him, his eyes are cold and focused. Daigo realized that this boy isn't just a villager. He's a trained killer, and he's far more dangerous than he appears. He's not as stupid as he seems, is he? The officer wonders. Daigo isn't taking any more chances. He pins Hiroyuki to the ground, the pain causing the boy to yelp. He seizes the firearm, declaring he'll be reporting this to the main office and getting Hiroyuki's license revoked. Hiroyuki tries to play the mayor's son card, but Daigo is done with the village's internal politics. Wait a minute. Don't you know who my father is? Hiroyuki shouts, but Daigo's face is a mask of professional resolve. Hiroyuki's bravado crumbles into desperation. He begs Daigo not to report him, claiming he still has to avenge Granny Goto. I need to do it, he screams, but Daigo isn't moved. He tells the boy to leave the revenge to someone else, his voice firm and unyielding. The hunt is no place for a child's vengeance. Restraining Hiroyuki with a clinical efficiency, Daigo delivers a lecture. He speaks of the village's small size and the family bond they all share. He wants to believe in the harmony of Kyuj village, even as he holds its mayor's son in the dirt. But Hiroyuki's muffled protests suggest a reality Daigo isn't ready to face. Hiroyuki's eyes burn with a hidden truth. You don't know anything. He spits at the outsider who just arrived. He's lived his whole life under his grandmother's care, and the loss is something Daigo can't begin to understand. The tension in the woods is no longer just about a bear. It's about the deep, ancestral roots of the village. A momentary peace settled over them as they sit in the leaves. Daigo offers to give the gun back, just in case they encounter the beast. He wants to move past the confrontation and focus on the real threat. Is there more? Hiroyuki asks, his voice low. They're followed by a shadow that's about to reveal itself. The shadow becomes flesh. Suddenly, the massive bear emerges from the brush, its presence overwhelming the silence of the woods. Daigo's blood runs cold as he stares into the beast's dead eyes. This is no myth. It's a living, breathing nightmare. Hiroyuki freezes, the gun still in his lap. Panic sets in. The bear is enormous, a literal wall of fur and muscle. Seriously, Daigo mutters, his voice trembling. He barks an order at Hiroyuki to give him the gun, the gravity of the situation finally hitting home. They are no longer the hunters, they are the prey. Daigo identifies the beast. It's a black bear, but its size is impossible. Then he sees the defining feature, a missing ear, just like the witness described. The killer of Granny Goto is standing right in front of them. I can't believe it, Daigo whispers, the reality of the hunt becoming a fight for survival. Daigo's mind is racing. Hiroyuki has changed into a different person, his fear replaced by a cold, singular focus. Daigo remembers the anatomist's words, the severed finger that didn't belong to the grandmother. He looks at the bear and then back at the boy. Is this creature really the monster they're looking for, or is it just a convenient scapegoat for the village's darker secrets? Kill the two of them? He wonders, the threat becoming multidimensional. The beast charges. The ground tremors as the massive black shape lurches forward, a blur of fur and fury. Daigo and Hiroyuki can only watch in horror as the distance between them and certain death vanishes in an instant. Is the only sound they can make as the mountain's wrath descends upon them. The bear is right in front of them, its roar a deafening explosion of primal rage. Its maw is open, revealing rows of yellowed, blood-stained teeth. Daigo is paralyzed by the sheer terror of it, his breath coming in ragged gasps as the world turns into a nightmare of claws and darkness. Chaos erupts. The bear attacks, its massive weight throwing Daigo to the ground. Hiroyuki is screaming, telling him to shoot, but everything is a blur of motion. What's wrong? Hurry up and shoot, the boy wails. Daigo fumbles for his weapon, his vision clouded by the creature's massive shadow. The hunt has become a slaughter. The bear is on top of him, its jaws snapping at his head. Daigo's world is reduced to the smell of wet fur and the sound of his own screams. Gah! Ak! Arg! He cries out as he fights to keep the beast's teeth away from his throat. His helmet is the only thing protecting him from a fatal bite. The struggle is desperate and primal. Daigo pins the creature's head back with everything he has, his eyes wide with the realization of his own mortality. I'm going to die here, he thinks, the word a mantra of despair. Hiroyuki is still screaming for the gun, but Daigo is locked in a life-and-death embrace with the beast. What the fuck? He bellows, his adrenaline reaching its limit. With a final, desperate burst of strength, Daigo fights back. Fuck off, you shitty bear, he roars, his voice full of a raw, animalistic rage of his own. He shoves the creature back, refusing to let the mountain claim him today. The bear grunts and snarls, momentarily taken aback by the outsider's resistance. The bear lets out one final roar and then, as suddenly as it appeared, it turns and runs back into the forest. Daigo is left bloodied and exhausted on the ground, his chest heaving. Oi, he's running away. He pants, unable to believe he's still alive. The adrenaline is fading, replaced by a deep, bone-weary shock. Hurry up and get it over with, he shouts. Hiroyuki doesn't hesitate. He takes aim with his rifle at the fleeing beast, his face a mask of cold determination. The scared kid is gone again, replaced by the marksman who can take a bird's head off in midair. Daigo watches from the ground, his world forever changed by the events of this hunt. Yeah, Hiroyuki mutters, his finger on the trigger as the first chapter of their nightmare comes to a close. In the tense aftermath of the bear attack, Hiroyuki Goto demands his weapon back. But Agawa Daigo isn't budging. Standing over the dead beast, the officer makes it clear he won't hand a gun back to someone who shoots as recklessly as a psycho. The tension lingers as they stand in the thick brush. Hiroyuki looks rattled, while Daigo keeps a watchful eye on the brothers. They might be locals, but their behavior is far from normal. Later, Daigo helps treat Keisuke Goto's mangled arm, pouring disinfectant over the raw wounds. Despite the earlier hostility, Daigo acknowledges Keisuke's quick reflexes. Sacrificing his arm to protect his neck from the bear was a calm, calculated move in a moment of life or death. Sitting by the riverbank, the air cools down slightly. Keisuke offers a rare, quiet apology for his earlier outburst, seemingly trying to smooth things over with the new village cop. Keisuke even gets a bit too friendly, throwing an arm around Daigo and declaring they aren't strangers anymore. But the look on Daigo's face says he's still far from trusting anyone in this village. The grim task begins. Keisuke takes a knife to the dead bear, slicing into the thick hide with practiced ease. He's looking for something specific, and the atmosphere grows heavier with every cut. Daigo watches closely, his mind racing. He needs forensic confirmation. Was this bear really the one that supposedly killed the Goto family matriarch? Keisuke is just as obsessed with confirming it, though for very different reasons. Keisuke hands a knife to a hesitant Hiroyuki, telling him it's time to help. When the younger brother flinches at the sight of the blood, Keisuke barks at him to stop dawdling and get to work. Hiroyuki steels himself, plunging the blade into the bear's torso. He knows better than to annoy his older brother, especially when things are this tense. As they pull the internal organs out, a sickening squelch fills the air. Keisuke warns him to be careful not to damage the stomach or the organs. They're looking for evidence of the bear's last meal. And then they find it. Tucked inside the warm, throbbing mass of the bear's stomach is a pair of spectacles. Hiroyuki stares at them in a daze, his hands covered in blood and grime. The realization hits hard. These belong to Granny Goto. The stench of death is overpowering, but the men of the Goto family don't flinch. They found what they were looking for. In a chilling display of village custom, the men bow their heads and pray over the bear's carcass and the retrieved glasses. It's a moment of bizarre reverence in the middle of a bloody scene. Ever the professional, Daigo pulls out his phone to document the discovery. It's official. The bear was a man-eater, and it had consumed at least one person from the village. But then, the situation takes a sharp turn into madness. Keisuke holds out a piece of the bear's raw internal organ, offering it to Daigo as if it were a delicacy. Daigo can only stare in pure shock. Keisuke explains the village's horrific tradition. By eating the animal that ate their loved one, the person becomes part of them again. To him, this isn't a crime. It's the ultimate way to send Granny Goto off. Daigo stands frozen, the raw meat in his hand. In this moment, the haunting words of the previous officer, Kano-san, echo in his mind. The humans of this village eat people. It was never just a crazy theory. A dark vision flashes through his mind, a memory of what Kano-san must have seen. The villagers of Kyuj aren't just isolated. They are predators, bound by a hunger that defies modern logic. Back in the woods, the brothers don't hesitate. They begin to consume the raw bear meat, their faces stained with blood. Daigo watches, his stomach churning at the sight of this ritualistic feast. As the sun sets over the valley, the weight of the truth settles on Daigo's shoulders. Kyuj village isn't the peaceful retreat he hoped for. It's a place where the human-eating theory isn't just a rumor. It's a lived reality. By 5:18 p.m., the news of the bear's fate has spread. Villagers gather around the vehicles, shouting and questioning Keisuke's actions. The calm of the evening is shattered by the rising chaos. The night grows cold as Daigo finally leaves the local clinic. He's exhausted, both physically and mentally, haunted by the scenes he witnessed in the forest. Waiting by their car are the only people who keep him grounded: his wife, Yuki, and their daughter, Mashiro. Yuki is visibly shaken by the rumors of the bear attack, her anxiety peaking in the dark, quiet street. Daigo looks at Mashiro, the bandage on his arm a stark reminder of the danger he faces. He softly asks if she was worried about him, but her response is only that familiar, heavy silence, a quiet that speaks volumes of the trauma she's still carrying. Kneeling to pull her into a tight hug, he whispers an apology for scaring her. He's determined to protect them, but as they head toward the car, the weight of Mashiro's silence lingers, setting a somber tone for the long, honest drive home. In the quiet of the car, Yuki watches their sleeping daughter, Mishiro. The weight of the child's silence is a constant burden. Yuki confesses her deep insecurity, feeling like a failure of a mother because she can no longer understand what her own daughter is thinking or feeling. Daigo listens, his own mind heavy with the day's horrors. The car crosses a bridge, leaving the site of the attack behind, but the trauma follows them. Yuki reflects on the day Mishiro stopped speaking, a day that changed everything for their family. Since then, the silence has been a wall they can't seem to break down. Daigo looks weary, the reality of his near-death experience finally sinking in. He admits that because of him, they are in this mess. Yuki quickly shuts down his self-blame, reminding him of their promise not to speak like that. But Daigo is shaken. He truly believed he wouldn't survive the day. He describes the moment the bear attacked, being bitten and tossed around like a rag doll. In those terrifying seconds, the only thing on his mind was their faces. The thought of never seeing them again filled him with a desperate, overwhelming will to live. The shock finally breaks through his professional exterior. Daigo begins to cry, surprised by his own reaction. He feels lame for breaking down, but the fear of losing his family was more than his mind could process in the heat of the moment. Exhausted and vulnerable, Daigo leans his head against Yuki, seeking a moment of peace. The strong officer who faced a man-eater is gone, replaced by a husband and father just trying to hold his world together. Yuki remains his anchor, her presence the only comfort in this dark village. Yuki gently strokes his hair, whispering that it's okay now. They are safe for the moment, but the fear remains. She softly assures him that everything is all right, trying to convince herself as much as him. As Daigo drifts into a restless sleep, Yuki gazes at Mishiro once more. She wonders if her daughter will ever find her voice again, or if she'll ever forgive Yuki when she finally returns to normal. The uncertainty of their future in Kyuj village looms large over them. Daigo tries to lighten the mood with a crude joke about Yuki's appearance, earning him a playful idiot from his wife. As their car drives away into the night, a mysterious woman with a suitcase watches from a bridge. The arrival of the new resident officer hasn't gone unnoticed. The woman is Samaire Kano. She watches the police car pass with a knowing, enigmatic smile. She knows exactly who is inside, and her presence in the village is no coincidence. The mystery surrounding her father, the previous officer, is about to deepen. Daigo's mind is plagued by horrific images, flashes of the villagers engaged in their gruesome traditions and the severed finger he found. The human-eating rumors are no longer just stories. They're a visceral, bloody reality that haunts his every waking moment. Back at the station, Daigo investigates the legacy of his predecessor, Kano-san. He learns that the man's reputation in Kyuj was notoriously bad, a sentiment shared unanimously by all the villagers. He wonders what the truth really was and what Kano-san discovered that turned the village against him. The official word is that Kano was a crackpot, a man whose name isn't even to be spoken. But Daigo knows better. He realizes that getting the truth from the villagers will be impossible. He needs another source, someone who knew Kano-san outside of this twisted place. He finds a lead in an old notebook, Samaire Kano, the officer's only daughter. She's 21 now, and Daigo is certain she knows what really happened to her father. He realizes he should have contacted her sooner, but the escalating danger in the village has kept him on the defensive. Suddenly, a figure appears at the window, startling Daigo. It's a jump scare that mirrors the constant paranoia he feels in this house. The villagers are always watching, always lingering just on the edge of his vision. It's Keisuke Goto, peering in with an unsettling grin. He teases Daigo for mumbling to himself, then abruptly shifts the topic. He reminds Daigo about Granny Goto's funeral procession, an event the officer is expected to attend as a member of the community. Keisuke hands Daigo a white cloth, telling him to put on his head and stop blabbering. The village traditions are not optional. As Daigo looks out at the mountains, the sheer isolation of Kyuj feels more suffocating than ever. He is being drawn deeper into their world. A shift in tone as we see Mishiro's first day at Kyuj Elementary. Yuki introduces her daughter to the school, her voice filled with hope and trepidation. The principal is welcoming, trying to ease the transition for the silent young girl. It's a rare moment of seemingly normal life. The other students gather around, their faces bright and friendly. They welcome Mishiro to Kyuj Elementary with a special gift. For a moment, it seems like the village might actually be a place where Mishiro can heal and find her way back to the world. The gift is a speaking notebook, a way for Mishiro to communicate without words. The kids came up with the idea after being told that Mishiro can't speak. It's a gesture of profound kindness that catches Yuki off guard, a glimmer of light in an otherwise dark environment. The principal smiles, noting how kind the children are. He admits he doesn't know if Mishiro will actually use the notebook, but he's confident she will get along just fine. Seeing the acceptance her daughter is receiving, Yuki is moved to tears, overwhelmed by the unexpected support. Yuki urges Mishiro to thank the other children, though the young girl remains lost in her own thoughts, staring blankly ahead. Despite the awkwardness, Yuki bows deeply, her heart full of gratitude for this small mercy. It's a fragile piece, but one she desperately wants to believe in. The scene shifts back to the forest, where the mood is far more somber. A procession of villagers, all dressed in black with white cloths covering their faces, moves silently through the trees. Yuki and Daigo watch from a distance, the sight of the hooded figures chilling them to the bone. The principal explains that this is a local funeral tradition for the Goto family. In Kyuj village, it is custom to cover one's face with a cloth during the procession. It's an ancient act still practiced by the folks in this area, a ritual meant to hide the living from the dead. The procession carries a large wooden tub, the coffin for Granny Goto. The hooded villagers move with an eerie, rhythmic precision through the dense forest. This is the heart of Kyuj, a place where life and death are intertwined in ways that Daigo is only beginning to understand. At the school, the principal speaks with Yuki Agawa, emphasizing that while their traditions might seem strange to outsiders, it's crucial for everyone to follow them. Mishiro stands quietly by her mother as the principal directs them inside for class, his expression turning stern as he reiterates just how important these local customs are. In the forest, the funeral procession for Granny Goto is underway. Villagers dressed in black, their heads shrouded in white cloths, carry a large wooden tub. Mishiro and Yuki watch from a distance, the strange and unsettling ritual unfolding before their eyes. The air is thick with a tension that only a place like Kyuj village can produce. The hooded figures move like ghosts through the dense brush, a silent line of mourners bound by an ancient, secretive tradition. Each step they take deeper into the woods feels like a step further away from the modern world and into something much darker. Agawa Daigo finds himself in the middle of the procession, struggling with the white cloth over his head. The sudden gusts of wind make it difficult to see, and for a moment, the sheer absurdity of the situation hits him. Is this really happening? Is he really part of this? Keisuke Goto notices Daigo's struggle and barks at him to stay focused. Daigo realizes he's in a precarious position. This is a sacred event for these people, and any mistake on his part could be seen as a grave insult to the memory of old Goto-san. He knows how much they cherished her, and that makes their hostility even more dangerous. Keisuke snaps at Daigo again, telling the idiot to hurry up and cover his face properly. The officer is sweating, the pressure of fitting into this closed community weighing heavily on him. One wrong move, and he might find himself as more than just a guest at this funeral. Keisuke's tone shifts slightly, almost mockingly forgiving. He tells Daigo he's not always angry and can overlook minor slips, but he warns that the real deal doesn't even start until the vigil later tonight. The underlying threat is clear. The village has its own way of dealing with outsiders who don't play by the rules. Keisuke claims they like to take things easy when sending their dead to rest, but the peaceful facade is short-lived. He suddenly brings the entire procession to a halt, his voice cutting through the silence of the woods. Everyone stops in their tracks, sensing that something is wrong. Keisuke begins a head count, his finger pointing at each hooded figure. 1, 2, 3. He counts up to 16. A cold realization washes over the group. There should only be 15 people in this procession. Someone has infiltrated their ritual, hiding in plain sight among the mourners. The leader's face twists into a snarl as he demands everyone reveal themselves. Playing us for fools, huh? He spits. One by one, the villagers pull back their cloths, revealing faces hardened by sun and labor, all eyes turning toward the one person who remains covered. Keisuke looms over the intruder, his hand gripping the white cloth. He sneers that this has gone beyond a simple prank, and that the only way some people learn is through a little pain. The surrounding villagers watch with grim anticipation as he prepares to expose the outsider. The cloth is ripped away, revealing the intruder. The villagers' tough talk momentarily falters, replaced by a confused murmur. The intruder is a young girl, standing small but defiant amidst the circle of men. Keisuke is the only one who doesn't seem surprised. His anger only deepens as he recognizes the face staring back at him. The girl with the glasses is Samaire Kano. Her presence is like a physical blow to the villagers. As they stare at her, the atmosphere shifts from ritualistic somberness to a sharp, hostile edge. Daigo, standing just behind the circle, looks on in confusion, unaware of the explosive history between this girl and the village. Keisuke's eyes narrow as he addresses her. Samaire, he growls, his voice dripping with venom. He asks her why she would ever come back to this place. The other villagers whisper among themselves, the name Kano bringing back memories they'd rather keep buried. Samaire stands her ground, her gaze fixed on the man who seems to represent everything she hates about this village. Keisuke turns to Daigo and explains exactly who she is. Samaire Kano, the daughter of Osamu Kano, the former officer who supposedly went missing. The air in the forest turns ice cold. For Daigo, the name is a shock. This is the key to the mystery he's been chasing, standing right in front of him. Keisuke mocks the girl, questioning her return and bringing up her father's disappearance as if it were a joke. Samaire doesn't flinch. She's not here for a reunion. She's here for the truth that everyone in this circle has been working so hard to hide. The villagers' faces are a map of guilt and suppressed rage. Samaire doesn't waste time. She looks Keisuke in the eye and asks if he still insists that the people of this village didn't kill her father. It's a direct, public accusation that shatters the silence of the forest. The villagers gasp, their collective breath hitching as the girl voices the unthinkable. Keisuke loses control, leaning in and screaming in her face. He shouts that even the police say her father got into debt, ruined himself, and ran away. He claims her old man was a goddamn lost cause and nothing more. His rage is explosive, a desperate attempt to drown out her accusations with sheer volume. The other villagers join in, their voices a cacophony of insults and denials. They mock her father's memory, trying to shame Samaire into silence. But the girl remains a statue, unmoved by their hostility. Daigo watches the scene, his mind racing as he processes the raw, naked hatred the village holds for the man he replaced. Samaire's voice is quiet but carries through the noise. "My father was not crazy," she says, her conviction unshakable. She reminds them of what he said about the people of this village, the truth they've tried so hard to brand as madness. Her eyes, magnified behind her glasses, are full of a cold, focused fury. In a sudden, violent movement, Samaire lunges forward and kicks the large wooden tub over. The coffin of Granny Goto rolls onto the forest floor, its contents spilling out in front of the stunned mourners. The act is a total desecration of their sacred ritual, a final, public act of defiance against the village's power. The villagers scream in outrage, horrified by the girl's insanity. But as they look at the overturned tub, the screaming stops. Daigo's eyes widen as he sees the truth for himself. The tub is empty. There's no body. The elaborate procession, the mourning, the ritual, it was all for an empty vessel. Samaire's voice cuts through the stunned silence. "Because it's empty," she states, her gaze sweeping over the men who just minutes ago were pretending to mourn. She says it's obvious there's no corpse because the people of this village ate her. She doesn't just suspect it, she knows. The accusation hangs in the air, a physical weight that seems to crush the breath out of everyone present. The villagers ate her, Daigo repeats, his world tilting as the horror of the human-eating rumors suddenly becomes an undeniable reality. The empty tub isn't just a desecration. It's the definitive proof he's been dreading, and the silence that follows is the heavy, suffocating calm before a lethal storm. Keisuke's face twists into a mask of homicidal rage as he prepares to strike the girl who dared to expose their secrets. Keisuke, don't! Daigo screams, lunging forward to intervene. Keisuke sneers at the officer, his teeth bared in a primal snarl, telling him it's not just the girl he should be worried about. The funeral ritual has been utterly shattered, and the entire forest is about to explode. The forest erupts into a sea of rage. The villagers of Kyuj, their faces twisted with ancestral fury, scream for blood. The peaceful funeral ritual has transformed into a hunt, and Keisuke, Goto, stands at the center of the madness, his eyes wide with a mix of anger and disbelief at the desecration that just occurred. Kill them, the mob bellows, brandishing sticks and stones. They aren't just angry. They're possessed by a collective bloodlust. Agawa Daigo stands with his back to the girl, the weight of the entire village's hatred pressing down on him. The thin veil of civility in Kyuj has finally been torn away. The shouting is deafening. "I'll murder you," someone screams. "As if we'd eat her." Another cries out, their denial sounding more like a confession of guilt. The empty coffin lies on the ground, a silent witness to the village's darkest secret, now laid bare for everyone to see. Daigo is paralyzed for a heartbeat, his mind reeling. Samaire Kano stands behind him, adjusting her glasses with a chilling calm. Keisuke Goto leans in, his voice a low, urgent growl amidst the chaos. He knows if the mob reaches them, there's no going back. He tells them to find an opening and run for their lives. They're going to kill her. Daigo realizes the professional officer in him clashing with the desperate man. Keisuke makes a split-second decision. Despite everything, he tells them to leave this to him and make a run for it. He's trying to save the village from its own bloodlust, and perhaps save his own soul in the process. But the mob won't be reasoned with. A massive, terrifying villager looms over Keisuke, his mouth a cavern of jagged teeth as he screams at him to get out of the way. They've been made fools of, and they demand a sacrifice. The giant man demands to know if Keisuke plans on protecting this brat again. Keisuke stands his ground, his face a mask of gritted teeth and raw determination. He warns them that killing Samaire would be the end of Kyuj. The police would descend, and the village's secrets would be incinerated. But the mob is past caring about consequences. They want vengeance for the insult she's dealt them. The charge begins. "Kill them!" The giant man bellows as he lunges. Daigo reacts instinctively, pulling Samaire into his protective embrace. His professional training takes over, his muscles coiling like a spring as he prepares to face a dozen men at once. The time for talk is officially over. In a blur of motion, Daigo becomes a human wrecking ball. He tosses the villagers aside with professional ease, his strength fueled by pure adrenaline. Men fly through the air like ragdolls as the officer fights with a ferocity that shocks even the mob. He's not just a cop anymore. He's a father protecting his own life and the girl who knows the truth. The violence is visceral and desperate. Daigo grabs faces, twists arms, and shoves his way through the crowd. He's a man possessed, his eyes wild with the realization that he is truly alone in this village. He's not just fighting for Samaire. He's fighting for his own family's survival in this nest of wolves. "All of you back away," Daigo roars, standing over the fallen villagers. He looks like a demon in the forest light, his silhouette imposing and terrifying. The mob falters, their cowardice finally catching up to their rage. For a brief second, the officer has established a perimeter of fear. As the dust settles, Daigo stands panting, his face covered in sweat and tears. He looks down at the girl he just saved, his mind racing. Is this real? Is he truly standing in a forest in Japan, fighting off a mob of cannibals? The sheer insanity of the situation threatens to break his spirit. The silence that follows is heavy with the scent of wet earth and something else, something foul and animalistic. Daigo covers his nose, the ungodly smell of the village finally reaching him. It's a stench that speaks of rot and ancient, hidden sins. Those few words of Sumair's were all it took to send the entire village into a homicidal silence. Keisuke Goto yells at them to hurry up and get the hell out of there before the mob regains its courage. Daigo grabs Sumair and starts running, the animalistic odor lingering in his nostrils. The forest itself seems to be watching them as they flee toward the only safety they have left, the police car. They burst through the trees and scramble into the cruiser. Sumair looks back one last time, her expression unreadable behind her glasses. Keisuke remains in the clearing, a lone figure standing between them and the village's collective rage. The line has been drawn, and there's no crossing back. Inside the car, the tension is suffocating. Daigo screams at Sumair, his professional mask completely shattered. "What were you thinking? Kicking over that coffin?" He bellows, the fear for her life and his own career boiling over. He tells her they're going to the station to get her under custody, but Sumair remains eerily calm. Sumair doesn't flinch. She tells him that kicking the coffin was a necessary act, because it was a coffin in form only. She knew there was no corpse inside, and she needed him to see it for himself. Her cold, analytical tone is a jarring contrast to Daigo's frantic energy. Daigo grips the steering wheel, his mind struggling to accept what he saw. The body of Granny Goto was mysteriously absent. However, he mutters, the thought too horrific to voice. Sumair finishes it for him. Mortuary cannibalism. The words hang in the air like a death sentence. Mortuary, huh? Daigo repeats, bewildered. Sumair begins to lecture him as if they were in a classroom, not a police cruiser fleeing a mob. She explains it as a phenomenon born of lingering feelings of love and attachment toward the deceased, a way to inherit their spirit by consuming their flesh. In Daigo's mind, a nightmarish image takes shape. He sees the villagers gathered around a carcass, their mouths bloody as they mourn by feasting on the dead. Through eating the flesh, they mourn the life that is lost, Sumair continues. That's what they do in Kyuj village. They drive into a dark tunnel, the lights flickering over Sumair's stoic face. She knows he thinks she's deluded, but she doesn't care. She's seen the truth, and she knows it's only a matter of time before the village consumes him too. The dark tunnel mirrors the rabbit hole Daigo is falling into. Sumair provides historical context, mentioning the 4 tribe of Papua New Guinea who practiced this up until the 1950s. She warns him that there have been way more cannibals throughout history than he might think, even in Japan. It's a global phenomenon, and Kyuj is just one hidden pocket of it. My father was not crazy, she asserts, her eyes flashing behind her glasses. The people of Kyuj village are cannibals. Daigo looks at her, the terror finally taking root in his heart. If she's right, then every person he's met in this village is a monster waiting for their next ritual. Sumair reveals that her research into cannibalism led to her hypothesis about the village's dark secret. Daigo is paralyzed by the realization that she gambled her life on a mere probably, a dangerous bet that only became a reality once she kicked that empty barrel over. You're telling me you did that without even knowing for sure? Daigo shouts, horrified by her disregard for her own safety. Sumair just stares ahead, her voice devoid of emotion. And what of it? She asks. To her, escaping with her life was never the priority, vindicating her father was. Sumair Kano smiles bitterly, her eyes cold behind her glasses. She admits that her reckless stunt with the empty coffin was a calculated risk. She wanted to provoke the villagers. If she hadn't, the people who killed her father would never be caught. Daigo looks at her, stunned by her desperation and her lack of faith in the system. She scoffs at the idea of police assistance, claiming that they were never going to do anything anyway. If the law won't act, then she will. Her resolve is terrifying, and for the first time, Daigo sees the true depth of the scars left by her father's disappearance. Daigo realizes that if he wants to survive this village, he needs to know what she knows. He asks her to leave the rest to him and never do anything that crazy again. In return, he wants the whole truth. Samaire looks at him skeptically, asking if she can really trust him. Daigo's answer is simple. That's for you to decide. Inside the car, the silence is heavy as Samaire begins her story. She remembers the very last time she saw her father, Osamu Kano. It was a day like any other until the phone rang. That call would be the beginning of the end for their family. The go-tos. It always came back to them. Samaire explains that her father was headed toward the go-to residence right after that mysterious phone call. Daigo listens intently, the name go-to becoming synonymous with every shadow in this village. It seems they were the ones who started the fighting in the first place. As they drive across a bridge, the sheer scale of the go-to's influence becomes apparent. Everything always begins with them, Samaire mutters. Daigo looks out at the dense forest, realizing that this family isn't just a part of the village. They are the village. And there is definitely something dark hidden in their history. Samaire warns Daigo to be careful. If he plans on looking into the go-tos, he needs to make sure he doesn't end up like her dad. Daigo's face hardens. The go-to residence is now his primary target. He knows the risks, but he also knows he can't turn back now. The scene shifts back in time. A younger Samaire approaches a local police station, her heart full of dread. She's there to report that her father hasn't come home. The building looks ordinary, but the indifference she finds inside is chilling. To the other officers, her father's absence is just another problem they'd rather ignore. Samaire stands at the desk, her voice trembling as she asks if they've seen her father. The officer on duty is dismissive, barely looking up from his notes as he tells her to wait. The fear in her eyes is palpable. She knows something is horribly wrong, but no one is willing to listen to a crackpot's daughter. In her memory, her father puts on his hat and tells her he's going to the go-to's place. He promises to be back before dark. Samaire asks if he's all right, noticing how strange he's been acting lately. Ever since he started having those arguments with the go-to's, the man she knew was slowly disappearing. Samaire's voice rises in frustration as she begs him to stop. She tells him that place is the origin of all their problems and that it would be better to just quit and live a peaceful life. She even mentions that her mother is being targeted, but her father is possessed by the investigation. He simply says, "I'm sorry, but I have to go," and walks out the door for the last time. Samaire's eyes well up with tears as she remembers how much he had changed. His expression had gotten so scary that she had almost forgotten the kind and gentle face he used to have. The village had turned a good man into a paranoid shadow of himself, and now that same shadow is falling over Daigo. Back to a more recent past. Samaire sits across from a female officer at another station. The officer tries to comfort her, saying that almost being attacked by the villagers must have been frightening. But Samaire isn't scared. She's focused. She's finally realized that when her father left her side for the last time, he was already gone. Samaire realizes with a heavy heart that he didn't even say goodbye. As the sun sets over the mountains, the distance between her and her father feels infinite. Meanwhile, Daigo is driving through the rural countryside, passing a sign that warns, "Private property, do not enter." He is entering the heart of go-to territory. The isolation is absolute. There isn't a single cell or radio signal that reaches this far into the woods. Daigo realizes that out here, anything could happen to him at any moment. He contemplates turning back, the silence of the rural countryside more unnerving than any mob. His headlights catch something in the brush, gravestones. At first, it looks like an old cemetery, but as he looks closer, the realization is chilling. Every single one of these stones belongs to the go-to family. It's an endless field of the dead, all bearing the same name. Daigo steps out his car, the side of the graveyard stretching into the shadows. The sheer number of go-tos buried here is insane. It's a physical manifestation of the family's ancient grip on this land, a grip that reaches out from the grave. A sudden, violent crunch shatters the silence. Daigo barely has time to react as a massive tree falls across the road, blocking his car. This wasn't an accident. It was a trap, perfectly timed to cut off his only escape route. He realized then that he should have turned around when he had the chance. Daigo ducks as the branches scrape against his windshield. Outside, the forest seems to erupt with the sound of snapping wood and startled birds. He's trapped in the deep mountains, a lone officer in a land that clearly doesn't want him there. He scrambles out of the car, his heart pounding. The fallen tree is a formidable barrier, effectively pinning him in. He knows someone is out there, watching him, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal themselves. The investigation has just become a fight for survival. Daigo stands by his car, staring at the massive trunk blocking his way. He knows this didn't happen randomly. The cut is clean. This tree was felled with purpose. The message is clear. He is no longer welcome in Kyuj village. Then comes the sound that turns his blood to ice, the roar of a chainsaw. Daigo spins around, his hand instinctively reaching for his sidearm. Emerging from the shadows is a man with a chainsaw, the engine revving with a menacing, mechanical growl. "What are you doing here?" the man asks, his voice barely audible over the noise. The man is a Ueo Goto, and he looks right at home with a weapon in his hand. He revs the chainsaw again, the blade glinting in the dim light. "This is our land," he declares, his expression a mixture of territorial pride and cold, homicidal intent. Daigo is standing in the Goto's backyard, and they don't take kindly to trespassers. Daigo recognizes him immediately. It's Ueo Goto, the man who is always seen by Keisuke's side. Ueo sneers at the officer, his revving chainsaw a physical threat that Daigo can't ignore. Trapped in a forest of graves and hopelessly outgunned, Daigo realizes he's finally standing face-to-face with the true, violent core of the Goto family. Ueo Goto leans in close, his scarred face showing a total lack of respect for the badge or the uniform. To him, Daigo is just another outsider poking his nose where it doesn't belong. The tension is at a breaking point, and as the chainsaw's engine idles with a low growl, Daigo finally finds his voice to confront the man who just tried to trap him. Agawa Daigo points an accusing finger at the fallen tree, his voice trembling with a mix of fear and anger. He tells Ueo Goto to stop playing dumb. That tree almost crushed his car. He asks if it was really an accident, his eyes searching Ueo's face for any hint of a lie. Ueo just stares back, unmoved. Daigo brings up his predecessor, Kano-san. He knows the last time the officer was seen, he was heading straight for the Goto residence. He asks Ueo directly if he knows what happened that day. Ueo's eyes narrow, the mention of Kano-san clearly hitting a nerve. The air between them is thick with unspoken threats. "I've had enough," Ueo mutters, revving the chainsaw. He starts to dismantle the massive trunk, the mechanical roar drowning out the sounds of the forest. Daigo watches, his hand hovering near his sidearm, as the man who just tried to kill him calmly clears the path he blocked. As the sawdust flies, Ueo mocks Daigo, saying he didn't know people were passing through. He asks if anyone is hurt with a sarcastic edge. Daigo remains silent, his mind repeating the words "he was killed." He looks at Ueo, wondering if he's staring into the eyes of his predecessor's murderer. Ueo admits he heard about Kano's daughter returning to the village. He sneers, wondering what crap she fed Daigo. The chainsaw continues its work, a brutal tool in the hands of a man who seems to have no regard for the life of an outsider. Daigo realizes then that the truth about Kano-san is something the Gotos are willing to kill for. The tree is finally cleared, the heavy log shoved aside. Daigo stands by his car, the silence that returns to the forest more unsettling than the roar of the saw. He is free to leave, but he knows he's now a marked man in Kyuj village. Ueo leans in, his face a map of grim experience. He tells Daigo he's starting to overthink things, just like Kano-san did. It's a chilling warning, a promise of what happens to those who dig too deep. He tells Daigo that if he wants to visit their house, he should feel free, but the invitation sounds more like a death sentence. Before you go, Iwao adds, have a look at this. Iwao holds out his phone, a recording already playing. Hello, you listening to me? A voice screams. Daigo's eyes widen as he sees the screen. Iwao claims this was taken on the day Kano-san disappeared, a day he actually showed up at their house, unannounced and unhinged. The video is horrific. Kano-san is screaming at the top of his lungs, his face a mask of pure terror and desperation. He's pointing a gun at something off-camera, his eyes wild. Quit that and come out here, he bellows. I know you're in there. The footage is grainy, but the raw, naked fear in the man's voice is unmistakable. You people. Iwao asks Daigo if this looks like a sane man to him. In the video, Kano-san is screaming the unthinkable. You eat people. You fucking eat them. You eat theme. Iwao's smile is predatory as he watches the officer's reaction. He wants Daigo to believe that Kano-san simply lost his mind, that the cannibalism was just a delusion of a broken man. Do you really believe the words coming out of his mouth? Iwao asks. He demands to know if Daigo is just as deranged as his predecessor. He tells him to admit it, then get off their property and quit looking into this case. For a moment, Daigo doesn't know what to believe. He thanks Iwao for the valuable material, his smile a professional mask hiding a deep internal panic. Please, allow me to use it for further reference. Iwao wipes his eyes, his expression unreadable. He realizes Daigo doesn't plan on stopping. Daigo apologizes, but explains he promised Kano-san's daughter he'd keep searching for clues. Iwao just sighs and tells him to do as he pleases. The game of cat and mouse has entered its next, more dangerous phase. Daigo gets back into his car, the images from the video burned into his brain. He knows Iwao was right about one thing. That was not the footage of Sane Man. But as he looks out the window at the looming mountains, he realizes that sanity is a relative term in Kyuj village. Kano-san wasn't crazy, he was terrified. The screams of the past echo in the present. The people of Kuj village are cannibals. The accusation is no longer a rumor, it's a legacy. Daigo realizes that Kano-san didn't just stumble upon a secret, he was consumed by it. And now, that same hunger is turning its gaze toward the new officer. As he drives away, Daigo is haunted by a single question. Why did he have to know for sure? He sees the desperation in Kano-san's eyes again, the man screaming, "You eat them," until his voice cracked. Whether the officer fell into ruin on his own, or if the villagers drove him to it, the result was the same. A life destroyed by the silence of Kyuj. The doubt begins to eat at him. Was it the villagers doing? Or did the isolation of this place simply rot the man's mind from the inside out? I'll shoot you. Kano-san's voice screams in his memory. The thin line between officer and victim is disappearing, and Daigo is standing right on the edge. The valley of Kyuj stretches out below him, peaceful and treacherous. Daigo looks at the village, his mind turning to his own family. Whether they should continue living here, or if they should leave, the decision is no longer a matter of career. It's a matter of life. Can he really keep Mishiro and Yuki safe in a place that devours its own? Back in the woods, Iwao and the elder Masato go to watch the police car disappear. Masato asks if it was really okay to let him pass. Iwao's face is hidden in the shadows of his cap, his expression unreadable as the dusk settles over the Goto family land. The tension in the village is at a breaking point. That doesn't come down to me, Iwao mutters, his eyes cold and distant. He scratches his face, the sound a rough rasp in the quiet forest. He says the one who decides that is him. The mystery of Kyuj village has a new name and a new, terrifying power. The chapter ends with an ominous promise of horrors yet to come. Deep in the snowy woods of Kyuj village, a mysterious old man performs a chilling ritual, washing something in the freezing cold. The silence of the forest only adds to the unsettling atmosphere. He meticulously scrubs a metal basin, the water turning dark and murky. As he looks up, His eyes are wide with a strange, haunting intensity, as if he's possessed by the secrets of this land. Whatever he was cleaning is now gone, leaving only the quiet, snow-covered village of Kyuj below, a place that looks peaceful from a distance, but hides a rot beneath its surface. Yuki Agawa and her daughter Mishiro are walking through the village when they're called out to. Yuki smiles, trying to adjust to their new life in this secluded community. It's their neighbor, Ahara. She seems friendly enough, laughing as she admits she's still not used to being called by her family name. But in Kyuj, every smile feels like a mask. Ahara introduces her daughter, Natsuki, and is glad to see the children are already making friends. For a moment, it feels like a normal, rural life, but the conversation is about to take a dark turn. Ahara's expression shifts. She leans in, her voice dropping as she asks if the Agawa family has been getting friendly with the Gotus. The weight of her question hangs heavy in the air. Yuki is confused, but Ahara's warning is blunt. She mentions that some people have seen Yuki's husband, Daigo, drinking with the Gotus. Her advice? Don't get involved with them. Ahara describes the Gotu family as barbaric, people who live by a completely different set of values. While she speaks, a vision of the Gotus digging a deep hole in the snowy woods flickers in the mind, a grim image of what they might be capable of. Meanwhile, the Gotu men are gathered in the forest, their tempers flaring. They've spotted a police officer heading toward Granny's place, and they are far from happy about it. Gotu Keisuke tries to play the voice of reason, telling the group to calm down. They're dealing with a cop, and that man, the family head, warned them not to get too worked up. But Matsuo Gotu isn't interested in logic. With a roar of fury, he silences the dissent with a brutal punch. He won't be told what to do, especially not when it comes to outsiders. Matsuo's eyes burn with a savage intent. If there's something I don't like looking at, I destroy it, he growls. In Kyuj, the law of the land is whatever the Gotus decide it is. The tension among the family members is palpable. Keisuke is questioned about whether he's trying to protect the outsider, but he quickly dismisses the idea. They have their own ways of handling things. Back in the village, the quiet beauty of the snow masks the growing danger. Every house seems to be watching, every shadow hiding a secret. The winter landscape is breathtaking, yet there's an undeniable sense of isolation. In a place like this, help is a long way off. Agawa Daigo stands before a house marked with a sign of mourning. He knocks, his face set in a grim mask of determination. He's looking for answers, even if they're behind a closed door. He identifies himself as the new village officer, but no one answers. The silence from within the house is deafening, making him wonder if anyone is even alive in there. As he searches the perimeter, he finds a rusted, abandoned car and a discarded doll in the trash. The signs of neglect are everywhere, painting a picture of a broken home. The interior of the house is a nightmare of filth and decay. Daigo can't shake the feeling that he's being watched. He knows he's trespassing on something dark. His instincts scream at him. He looks up at the windows, sensing eyes peering through the curtains. Someone is recording his every move. Suddenly, a curtain twitches. He catches a glimpse of a camera lens. He realizes he's being lured into the same trap as the previous officer, Kano. The realization hits him like a physical blow. This is the exact angle from which Kano was filmed before he disappeared. There's no mistaking the malice behind that lens. Daigo knows he's crossing a line, but his instincts won't let him back down. Just as he decides to force his way in, a sudden, hostile voice cuts through the freezing air. Someone has been waiting for him. It's Matsuo Gotu, and he's not here to talk. Pointing a rifle directly at Daigo, he sneers at the cop's questions about Kano, his face twisted with a dark, mocking glee. The situation has just turned lethal, and Matsuo is about to snap. Matsuo Gotu is screaming, his face contorted with rage. He tells Agawa Daigo to hurry up and get lost, or he'll kill him right here and now. The threat is real, and the tension is at a breaking point. Daigo, however, remains eerily calm, his eyes fixed on the man pointing the rifle. Daigo refuses to back down. He asks Matsuo why they're going through such lengths just to pull him away from the Goto case. As Matsuo's eye twitches, Daigo realizes this is more than just a mere threat. The Gotos are desperate to keep their secrets buried, even if it means murdering a police officer. Daigo's resolve only fuels Matsuo's murderous intent. I'll be investigating the Gotos as thoroughly as I need to get some answers, Daigo declares. Matsuo's response is simple and chilling. All right then. He peers through the scope, his finger tightening on the trigger. Just as the rifle fires, Daigo lunges forward with incredible speed. He tackles Matsuo, the muzzle flash lighting up the snowy yard as the spent shell casing flies into the air. Daigo's police training kicks in, his movements a blur of practiced violence. In an instant, the tables are turned. Daigo has Matsuo pinned to the ground and is aiming his own weapon back at the rest of the Goto family. The other men, including the one with the shovel, are frozen in shock. Daigo's gaze is cold and unwavering. You guys have seriously underestimated me, he mutters. Daigo is breathing hard, the realization of what just happened sinking in. They fired the damn gun, he thinks, his eyes wide. They actually tried to shoot me. He had underestimated their madness, but he won't make that mistake again. Matsuo groans on the ground, the initial bravado gone. Meanwhile, back in the village, Yuki Agawa is leaving her neighbor Ehara's place. Ehara waves goodbye, acting like a friendly mama friend, but Yuki feels a nagging sense of unease. She's not good with these kinds of people, the ones whose smiles don't quite reach their eyes. Yuki enters what should be the safety of the police station, but she's greeted by a chilling sight. The Goto family has made themselves right at home. Keisuke Goto, with his feet up on the desk and a cigarette in his hand, looks at her with a predator's grin. "Welcome home, honey," he sneers. Yuki is frozen in the doorway, her heart hammering in her chest. Ehara's warning about not getting involved with the Gotos echoes in her mind. Now, they're right here, in her husband's office, their presence a blatant act of intimidation. One of them simply says, "Yo," as if it's a social call. The room is crowded with Goto men, their expressions ranging from boredom to open hostility. Keisuke is at the center of it all, his eyes fixed on Yuki. "What are you all doing here?" she stammers, her voice barely a whisper. The air in the small station feels thick and suffocating. Yuki is visibly upset, but Keisuke remains unfazed. When she asks why they're here, he simply tells her he called for them. "I'm not okay with this." "Goto-san," she exclaims, but her protest is met with a cold reminder. Everyone here is Goto-san, you know. They aren't individuals here. They're a collective, a tribe. Keisuke leans forward, his expression darkening. He clarifies the reason for their visit with a chilling bluntness. "The one we want to talk to isn't your husband," he says, his gaze locking onto Yuki. A cold sweat breaks out on her forehead as she realizes the target of their attention. Keisuke points a finger directly at her. "It's you." Yuki's breath hitches. Mashiro, sensing her mother's terror, clings to her coat, her eyes wide with silent fear. The Gotos aren't just here to threaten the law. They're here to threaten the family. Back at the scene of the confrontation, the rifle is now in Daigo's hands. He peers through the scope, his face set in a grim mask. He's seen the lengths these men will go to, and he's ready to meet them with the same level of intensity. The snow continues to fall, blurring the lines of the battlefield. Daigo aims the rifle at the group of Goto men. "Are these guys fucking insane?" he thinks. He shouts for them not to move, threatening to shoot if they don't comply. But Matsuo, even with a gun pointed at him, just laughs. "Go ahead," he taunts, his eyes crazed. "If you think you can." Matsuo leans into the barrel of the rifle, his face inches from the muzzle. "Kill me, you fucker," he screams, his voice full of a disturbing zeal. He's testing Daigo, trying to see if the lawman has the stomach to do what he threatens. "What's the matter?" He goads, his defiance absolute. The standoff is a battle of wills. Matsuo laughs in Daigo's face, mocking his inability to pull the trigger. "How can you expect to threaten us? You can't, can you?" he yells. Daigo remains silent for a moment, his jaw tight. "You've got a point," he finally admits, his eyes narrowing. I might not be able to shoot you guys. Then a dark shift in Daigo's tone. However, I have shot people before. The revelation is a heavy weight in the air, hinting at a past far more violent than his current role suggests. Matsuo's eyes widen slightly. Oh, he murmurs, his smile faltering for the first time. The predator has sensed another predator. The violence is sudden and absolute. Daigo uses the rifle as a club, slamming the butt into Matsuo's face with a sickening crunch. He doesn't stop there, spinning around and taking down the other Goda men with brutal efficiency. They had expected a cop who followed the rules, but Daigo is something else entirely. The fight is over as quickly as it began. Daigo has the men on the ground, the sound of clicking handcuffs filling the snowy yard. All of you are coming with me. Back to the station, he growls. One of the men, his nose bleeding, looks up at Daigo with a mixture of fear and defiance. Don't think that you can live normally after capturing us. The warning is ominous. The man with the glasses tells Daigo that he won't take this lightly. Who the hell are you talking about? Daigo demands, but the only response is a chilling silence. The shadow of the family's patriarch, the one who truly runs the village, looms large over them. Daigo cuffs the man with glasses, his patience worn thin. You should have just gone home like we told you to. It's too late now, the man mumbles. Daigo asserts his authority. I'm a police officer. But the man just laughs, a bloody, hollow sound. If you think the rules of this country apply to people like us, you're sorely mistaken. As Daigo leads the arrested men to the police car, the gravity of the situation begins to set in. He's broken the unwritten rules of Kyuj village, a place where tradition and family blood run deeper than national law. The Godus don't see themselves as citizens. They're the law of this mountain. The men are loaded into the back of the car, their faces bruised and bloody. The man with glasses delivers one final, chilling warning. This will not end well for you. Not for you, or for your family. Daigo watches him, his expression unreadable, but the threat to Yuki and Mishiro is a cold weight in his chest. The image of the bleeding man's face, his eyes full of a dark certainty, lingers. You've broken one of those unwritten rules, he'd said. In the isolation of Kyuj, a broken rule isn't just a legal matter, it's a death sentence. The battle for the village's secrets has only just begun. Agawa Daigo pulls the bloodied member of the Goto family by the collar, his patience finally snapping. Shut up, he growls, his face a mask of cold determination. I'll hear the rest at the station. He's tired of the threats and the hidden rules of this village. As Daigo forces the men into the back of his patrol car, the elderly members of the Goto clan stand by the roadside, watching with sunken, hollow eyes. The tension is palpable as a woman among them cries out in a voice full of desperate sorrow. Mom! One of the men mutters from inside the car. The elderly woman chases after the car, pleading for them to stop. She reaches out, her hands trembling as she calls for Ikkyo. Daigo, conflicted but firm, tries to push her back for her own safety. Please stop, he shouts, but the woman's desperation is absolute. In her frantic attempt to cling to the car, her fingernails rip away against the metal, leaving bloody streaks behind. Daigo is horrified by her self-destructive intensity. He kneels beside her, checking her injuries, only to see the raw, fanatical loyalty that binds this family together. Your nails. Are you okay? The woman looks him in the eye, her expression terrifyingly calm despite the pain. She warns him that here on Goto land, they have their own ways of dealing with problems. Daigo is stunned, wondering what kind of madness has gripped this community to make them believe they are above the law. The warning of Karino's daughter echoes in Daigo's mind. The same girl who told him that if he didn't want to end up like her father, he should be careful. The realization settles in his gut like lead. These people didn't just threaten Kano, they really killed him. Daigo remembers the gruesome piece of evidence he found, a severed human finger. The question that has been haunting him since his arrival now feels more urgent than ever. Whose finger was it, and what kind of monster would do such a thing? The Goto elders continue their silent vigil, their faces etched with the secrets of generations. They speak of someone who makes the final verdict, a figure of authority that transcends any modern court. Daigo can only stare, realizing the scale of the conspiracy he's uncovered. The weight of the mystery leaves Daigo breathless. The peaceful facade of the village is gone, replaced by an ancient, predatory darkness that he is only beginning to understand. Visions of the village's hidden violence flash before his eyes, an old man with a sickle, a ritual born of blood and tradition. In this place, the past isn't dead, it's waiting in the shadows. A message plays on an answering machine, the mechanical beep a sharp contrast to the primal fears of the village. It's a call that brings a definitive, terrifying answer to the most gruesome question of all. Dr. Nakamura, the forensic physician, is on the line. His voice is professional, but heavy with the gravity of his discovery. About that finger, he says, leaning back in his chair. We know who it belonged to. The reveal cuts through the scene like a knife. The finger belongs to the man who went missing before Daigo's arrival, the previous officer of Kyuj village. The truth is officially out. The name Osamu Kano is carved into the very wood of the village, a silent testament to a man who tried to uncover the truth and paid the ultimate price. Daigo stares at the name, knowing he is now following in Kano's footsteps. Flashback, it wasn't always like this. Months ago, the move to the village felt like a fresh start. Yuki and Mishiro were fascinated by the rustic lifestyle, even finding amusement in the old pit toilets. Isn't this a pit toilet? It's my first time seeing one. Yuki laughed. Mishiro ran through the village, chasing butterflies, her silent joy a source of hope for her parents. Yuki watched her with a smile, hoping that the quiet life would help their daughter recover. Look, at the very least Mishiro looks like she's having fun. Daigo, however, was already feeling the weight of his new responsibility. Yuki noticed his gloomy face and teased him, trying to lighten the mood. She wanted him to believe that they would be welcomed with open arms. I'm glad you think that way, he replied, though a shadow of doubt remained. She even gave him a playful kick, a rare moment of levity before the darkness of the village closed in. Stop that, Mr. Officer, she laughed. At that moment, the future still looked bright. Daigo met the young men of the village, who had gathered to help the new officers settle in. They seemed friendly and helpful, far from the monsters they would later reveal themselves to be. Nice to meet you. I hope you don't mind having us help you. Daigo introduced his family with a respectful bow. I'm Agawa Daigo. This is my wife Yuki and my daughter Mishiro. We'll be in your care from now on. It was the start of a journey that would lead him into the heart of a nightmare. The optimism of those early days was infectious. Daigo was energetic and determined to be a good officer for the village. A youth the locals teased. He had no idea of the horror that lay beneath the surface of this peaceful-looking place. Present. The memory fades, replaced by the freezing cold of the present. Daigo lies unconscious in the snow, his face battered and bloodied after the brutal confrontation with the Goto family. The silence of the woods is absolute. Searchers eventually find him by the river. It's a man, they shout. There's a man here, guys. Boy, is he still alive? They pull him from the brink, oblivious to the fact that they're saving a man who has just declared war on the village's darkest secret. Just before he surfaces, a haunting image sears through his mind. The wide, terrifying eyes of the monster that haunts the Gotos. Agawa Daigo's own eyes snap open, a cold sweat breaking out as his consciousness drags itself back into the world of the living. The iron-scented air of the mountains is gone, replaced by the sterile, biting smell of a hospital room. Yuki and Mishiro are right beside him, their faces etched with a fragile relief. Thank God, Yuki whispers, tears of joy welling in her eyes. You're awake. But for Daigo, the silence is filled with a growing confusion as he realizes his last memories have been swallowed by darkness. Agawa Daigo snaps awake in a hospital bed, his head throbbing with pain. Yuki is right there, her voice a mix of relief and stern warning. Don't move so suddenly, she says, gently pushing him back. Daigo's memories are a jumble, He remembers the woods, the confrontation, and then nothing but darkness. "Where are we?" he mumbles, trying to make sense of the sterile white room. As he tries to piece his memory back together, a flash of something terrifying flickers in his mind. He remembers subjugating the Goto members, but then there was someone else. Someone he can't quite identify. Sweat pours down his face as the foggy memory of a blood-stained blade haunts him. "My memory's foggy. I can't really remember." He confesses, his breathing ragged. Yuki looks at him with deep concern, sensing the trauma behind his eyes. His confusion quickly turns to shock as he looks toward the doorway. Standing there, as if they own the place, are the members of the Goto family. The man with the beanie looks down at him with a chillingly calm expression. "Why the hell are you guys here?" Daigo demands, his body tensing despite his injuries. The audacity of his attackers visiting him in the hospital is almost beyond belief. Yuki's response is even more baffling. She steps between Daigo and the Gotos, explaining that they were the ones who protected her and Mashiro. "What are you talking about?" Daigo exclaims. He can't believe his ears. The very people who almost got him killed are now being praised as protectors by his own wife. The room is thick with a tension that Daigo can't quite cut through. The Goto family members, including the intelligent-looking man with glasses, bow deeply in an act of performative remorse. "We're terribly sorry," they say, claiming it was all their fault. They spin a tale of violent members within their own family that they supposedly stopped from hurting the Agawas further. Daigo watches them, his silence heavy with suspicion. He knows the Gotos, and he knows they don't apologize unless they have an ulterior motive. Yuki seems to have bought their story. She looks at the sign for the local clinic and remembers how the Gotos stay by their side. Goto Sane and the others, they stayed to protect us, she tells Daigo. To her, it was a gesture of community support in a dangerous moment. To Daigo, it feels like a calculated move to manipulate his wife and daughter. He looks at her, then back at the Gotos, his mind racing to find the truth behind their words. The man with glasses, Goto_male_002, steps forward with a weary sigh. "My brother has really gone and done it this time," he says, referring to Matsuo. He offers a smooth apology, acting as if he's just a concerned family member cleaning up a mess. But Daigo sees right through the act. He remembers the coldness in this man's eyes during their confrontation. This isn't an apology, it's a script. He continues his confession, claiming that Matsuo was the one who slashed Daigo's head and that he's already turned himself in. The other Goto men stand behind him, a silent wall of intimidation masked as a supportive presence. Daigo feels a sense of vertigo. The facts they're presenting don't match the flashes of memory he's starting to regain. He's being fed a convenient lie, and even the local police seem to be going along with it. Lies, Daigo thinks, his gaze fixed on the man with glasses. He remembers the conditions of the attack. There was no way Matsuo or the others could have slashed his head from where they were. They were handcuffed, pinned down. They're giving false evidence to protect someone else, someone far more dangerous. The realization makes his skin crawl. They aren't just lying. They're constructing an entirely different reality. The memory finally snaps into focus. He sees it now, the hand gripping the blade, the inhumanly wide eyes staring back at him. It wasn't Matsuo. It was someone else entirely. Someone who shouldn't even exist. Who did this to me? He wonders, his own eyes wide with a newfound terror. The Gotos watch him, their faces impassive as they wait for his reaction. Even Yuki can feel the sudden change in his energy. "That guy, who is he?" Daigo mutters, the image of the monstrous attacker burned into his retinas. The room falls silent as he poses the question. The Gotos look at each other, a flicker of something passing between them. They know exactly who he's talking about, but they'll never admit it. Daigo can feel the weight of their collective secret pressing down on him. And then there's the smell. Daigo remembers it vividly, a pungent, beast-like odor that filled his lungs right before the blade struck. It's a scent that no normal human could have, something primal and foul. He looks at his hand, almost as if he can still feel the presence of that creature. The memory of the smell is more convincing than any words the go-tos could say. In his mind, the figure of the attacker looms large, a shrouded, monstrous shape that seems to belong to a different century. The go-tos have built their village around this horror, protecting it and feeding it. Daigo realizes that he hasn't just crossed a family. He's stumbled into an ancient, blood-soaked tradition. The vision of the old man with the sickle returns, his eyes glazed with a terrifying, hollow light. This is the final verdict the villagers spoke of. Not a court of law, but a predator that hunts those who dig too deep into Kyuj secrets. Daigo feels a chill that has nothing to do with the air conditioning in the hospital. The memory of the strike is visceral, the spray of blood, the sharp sting of the blade. Daigo remembers seeing this man at the funeral, standing among the mourners as if he were just another villager. He was hiding in plain sight, a monster camouflaged by tradition. So that's who he was. Daigo thinks, his grip on the hospital sheets tightening. A local officer enters the room, but Daigo barely notices. He's locked in a silent standoff with the go-tos. "It was not your brother," he says, his voice low and dangerous. "It was him." He points a shaking finger toward the memory of the attacker. The go-tos' masks of remorse slip for a split second, revealing the predatory nature beneath. Daigo knows he's just named their most guarded secret. "It was that guy who slashed my forehead," Daigo declares. The man with glasses just looks at him, a faint, mocking smile on his lips. "Who exactly is that guy?" he asks, feigning ignorance. "I don't get it." They are gaslighting him, trying to make him doubt his own senses. But Daigo knows what he saw, and he knows what he smelled. Daigo describes the man from the funeral, the one who treated people like dolls and moved with a beast-like ferocity. He mentions the odor again, that unmistakable, non-human scent. The image of the old man with the sickle and the monstrous figure merge in his mind, a dual nightmare that haunts the village of Kyuj. He can still feel that scent clinging to his skin. The Goda man in the beanie lets out a loud, mocking laugh. Distinguishing based on smell, "What are you, a dog?" he sneers. The room erupts with the go-to's cruel laughter, a sound meant to belittle Daigo's trauma and make him look crazy in front of his family. But beneath the laughter, Daigo senses a flicker of genuine unease. They know he's getting too close to the truth. "Are you making fun of me?" Daigo asks, his eyes narrowing. He's done talking to these monsters. He tells them to leave, his voice cold and final. Yuki tries to calm him down, her hand on his shoulder, but she doesn't understand the level of malice she's inviting into their lives. The go-tos prepare to leave, but their parting words are anything but a goodbye. "Sorry for the inconvenience," the man with glasses says with a final bow. He adds that there's one more thing Daigo should know. While two of them have surrendered, Matsuo is still out there on the run. "He might be out for you guys," he warns, his eyes lingering on Yuki and Mishiro. "You should really be careful." It's a blatant threat, a reminder that the go-tos are always watching. "Shit," Daigo mutters as the go-tos finally leave the room. He looks at his wife and daughter, a cold fear settling in his chest. He's just named a monster that the entire village is protecting, and now a dangerous man is hunting his family. The peaceful life they sought in Kyuj has officially become a battle for survival. As Daigo recovers, the forensic investigation into the finger he found continues in the background. The mechanical voice of the answering machine delivers the final, soul-crushing piece of the puzzle. "About that finger, we found out whose it was," Dr. Nakamura's voice says. "It belonged to the previous officer, Osamu Kirino. The missing man wasn't just gone. He was part of a gruesome crime." But the investigation didn't stop at the identity. Dr. Nakamura reveals an even more disturbing detail that caught their attention. He holds up the phone, his face grim as he delivers the findings. "On the finger, we detected human saliva. The implication is undeniable and sickening. The previous officer didn't just die. He was eaten." The screen of the cracked phone displays the horrifying conclusion. The analysis confirms the presence of human saliva on a human finger. The rumors of cannibalism in Kyuj village are no longer just stories. They are a scientific fact. Daigo looks out at the mountains, realizing that the man-eaters he was warned about are very, very real. In the shadows of the village, a hidden hand deletes a crucial piece of evidence. The voicemail has been deleted, someone mutters. The conspiracy is tightening its grip, ensuring that the truth remains buried. This is bad. This is really bad, the mysterious man says, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and calculated malice. Deep in the woods, the Goto men discuss their next move. Matsuo is on the run, and they know the police are gunning for him. You're not going to stay underground forever, right? One asks. The tension among the clan is rising as they realize their unwritten rules are being challenged by an outsider who won't back down. The village elders are already planning a cover-up. They know that at this rate, it's only a matter of time before the authorities from the city descend upon them. I know, one of the younger members replies, a crazed look in his eyes as he holds his phone. Let me handle everything. Their definition of handling it usually involves more blood. Far from the village, Dr. Nakamura-san sits in his sterile office, the weight of his forensic findings pressing down on him. The hospital is quiet, but the information he holds is a ticking time bomb. He's seen the worst of humanity, but the saliva on Carino's finger is something else entirely. Nakamura-san checks his inbox and finds a message from Agawa Daigo. The officer wants to meet in person to discuss further inquiries. The doctor's expression is grim as he stares at the screen. He knows that giving Daigo more information might just be signing the young officer's death warrant. Back at the hospital, Daigo realizes his phone has gone missing, another part of the Goto's plan to isolate him. Shit, my phone's gone too. He growls. Yuki tries to keep him calm, promising to cancel the service immediately. Daigo's frustration is building. He's a lawman with no way to call for backup. Despite his severe injuries, Daigo forces himself out of bed. He can't afford to waste another second. The police will be protecting these two, right? He asks the local officer, pointing to his wife and daughter. He's putting his family's safety in the hands of a force he no longer fully trusts. What about you? Yuki asks, her voice trembling. I'm going to arrest Matsuo Goto, Daigo declares, his resolve absolute. He's ignoring the pain and the danger, driven by a need for justice that borders on obsession. Yuki screams at him to stop, reminding him that he was almost killed, but Daigo has already crossed the line. There's no backing down now. Yuki finally gives in, knowing she can't change his mind. She asks the officer to take them home first. Daigo buttons up his shirt, his movements stiff from the bandages. Listen to me, Daigo, she says, but the words die in her throat. She can see that the man she married has been replaced by someone consumed by the mystery of Kyuj. The patrol car winds through the mountain roads, the silence inside the vehicle as heavy as the fog outside. Daigo stares out the window, his hand on his chin, already planning his next move. Even the local officer feels the shift in the air. The village is no longer a quiet posting. It's a war zone. As they pull up to the officer's residence, they notice someone waiting by the steps. Looks like you have a visitor, the driver says. Daigo's eyes narrow. In this village, a visitor is rarely a good sign. But as the figure comes into focus, he realizes it's someone he's met before. It's Kangai Carino, the daughter of the previous officer. She's standing in front of the house that used to be her home, a bittersweet look on her face. I'm so glad that you made it back safely, she says, her eyes lingering on Daigo's bandages. She knows exactly what the Gotos are capable of. Daigo asks her why she's still in the village. She explains that she just wanted to see her childhood home one last time before leaving for good. The house, which now serves as Daigo's station, holds memories of a life that was shattered by the same secrets Daigo is now chasing. They stand together in the cold air, looking up at the old wooden structure. To the girl, it's a tomb of her family's happiness. To Daigo, it's a fortress he must defend while he tears down the village's traditions. The silence between them is a shared understanding of the horror that lives in these mountains. Daigo brings up her father, Osamu Carino. He was killed by the Goto family. Right? He asks directly. The girl doesn't flinch. She's known the truth in her heart for a long time, even if she couldn't prove it. She looks at Daigo, seeing the same determination that likely led to her father's disappearance. Daigo admits that it's still speculation, but given what's happened after just a bit of digging, the evidence is pointing in only one direction. The girl nods solemnly. She's not surprised. She's just sad that another family has been dragged into this nightmare. I think there's a good chance that's the case, she whispers. The girl reaches out and gently touches Daigo's bandage. I'm so sorry you got injured. Because of something I instigated, she says, her voice full of guilt. She was the one who gave him the first piece of the puzzle, and she feels responsible for the blood that's been shed. Daigo just looks at her, his expression softening for a moment. It's fine. Just leave the rest to me. Daigo promises to finish what her father started. He tells her he'll leave the safety of the village to her for now, but he has a job to do. He's taking on the burden of the past and the present, a heavy weight for one man to carry. The girl looks at him with a mix of admiration and pity. All right, I'll leave it to you. But her final warning is the most chilling of all. Staying here, in Kyuj village. I've lost both my mom and my dad. She looks at Yuki and Mishiro, her eyes filling with tears. She's seen this story play out before, and she knows how it ends for those who try to be heroes in a place that has no room for them. You might end up losing someone too, she says, her gaze fixed on Mishiro, playing in the distance. The words hit Daigo like a physical blow. He looks at his daughter, then back at the girl. The cost of the truth might be higher than he's willing to pay, but he's already too deep to turn back. She reaches into her pocket and pulls out a small, folded piece of paper. Also here, take this. She hands it to him with a sense of urgency. It's a final gift from her father, a clue that he managed to leave behind before the darkness swallowed him. Daigo takes it, his fingers brushing against hers. He murmurs, sensing its importance. This is the last number my dad called, she explains. She tried calling it herself, but no one ever picked up. She hopes that as a police officer, Daigo might be able to get something out of it. It's a thread she's been holding on to for years, and now she's passing it to him. Thanks, this'll be useful, Daigo says, gripping the paper tight. Daigo tries to reassure her, telling her that everything will be okay. But the girl just smiles sadly. She's seen the craziness that took her father, and she knows it's not something that can be easily fixed. It's all because he suddenly became crazy and made me too scared to even go home, she admits, her eyes reflecting a trauma that will never truly heal. As Kangai Kirino prepares to leave, she leans in, her voice dropping to an urgent whisper. She's giving Daigo one final, crucial piece of advice. A perspective he'll need if he hopes to survive the coming storm. Just one last thing, she says, her eyes searching his for understanding. Those guys in the Goda family might be crazy, but Keisuke is different, she says from the car window as it starts to pull away. She leaves Daigo standing alone in the biting cold, the name Keisuke echoing in his mind. If there's truly one man who isn't like the others, he might be Daigo's only hope in this village of monsters. I'll do something about it, he mutters, the battle lines finally clear. As the car pulls away, Kangai Kirino looks out at the village that stole her family. Farewell, Kyuj village, she thinks. She's leaving the nightmare behind, but she knows she's leaving Agawa Daigo in the center of it. The mountain air is cold, and the secrets of the Gotus are still buried deep in the snow. Somewhere in the village, Keisuke Gotu stands alone, the marks on his body a silent testament to the values his family upholds. He looks exhausted, perhaps even haunted by the role he must play in this community. Samire mentioned he was different, but in a place like Kyuj, even a different man is part of the system. Samire looks back at the shrinking village one last time. Bye-bye, Keisuke, she whispers. Her departure marks the end of her search for answers, but for the Agawa family, the investigation is only beginning. The road ahead is paved with blood and ancient rituals. Daigo stares at the strange phone number on the scrap of paper. Yuki tries to break the tension with a bit of humor, teasing him about getting a young girl's number. Wow, you got a young girl's phone number. Ain't that nice, she says. But Daigo's expression remains grim. He knows this isn't a flirtation. It's a lead from a dead man's daughter. Yuki's smile quickly fades as she looks at Daigo's battered face. Before anything else happens to us, Can we seriously consider leaving this village? She asks. She's no longer the naive wife trying to fit in. She's a mother who can feel the danger closing in on her child. The peaceful life they sought has become a cage. The argument escalates as they stand in the cold. Yuki points out the obvious. The previous officer went missing, and Daigo nearly died. She's furious that he's still talking about catching Matsuo instead of protecting his own family. At least think about how we feel, she cries, her voice full of worry and desperation. Daigo can only look at the ground, the weight of his duty clashing with the love for his wife. Yuki delivers an ultimatum. If anything happens, I'll be taking Mashiro and leaving the village, she declares. Daigo's apology is hollow, and they both know it. Sorry won't keep the go-tos away, and it won't erase the memories of the attack. The rift between them is growing, fueled by the secrets Daigo is still keeping. Daigo realizes he can't hide the truth for her any longer. He remembers the day Mashiro found something in the woods. Yuki, there's something I wasn't able to tell you before, he says, his voice low and heavy. He finally reveals the gruesome secret he's been carrying. The thing Mashiro gave him was a human finger. Yuki's eyes widen in horror as the reality of their situation sinks in. He explains his initial mistake. He thought the finger belonged to Granny Goto, who was supposedly killed by a bear. He hid it to avoid causing more trouble, but the forensic results have proven him wrong. I think that finger belonged to the previous officer, Osamu Kirino, he admits. The name carved into the wood is no longer just a mystery. It's a murder victim. The sterile report about human saliva on the finger echoes in Daigo's mind. The rumors of cannibalism are no longer just village lore. They are a scientific fact. He looks at Yuki, his face set in a mask of urgent determination. This place is dangerous. You two should leave, he says. The battle for Kyuj village has officially begun, and the stakes are the lives of his family.